What's up guys, Nightingale here, and welcome back to another developer notice. Today we're covering the first balance adjustment preview on this series. So look forward to coming back about every 8 weeks or so. We will have more of the balance patch surveys, or the balance patch previews going on. So let's jump into this, and let's kind of already go ahead and call out Smilegate a little bit. Hey, you guys remember that that whole dev notice you guys gave out that said you weren't going to buff ML5s unless it was deemed worthy for the meta? Why are these two here? These, what are these going to do? Yeah, no, I get it. These were already in the works before you made that. All right, so let's jump in and read what they got to say here. So, hello, heirs. This is Epic7. Hi, Epic7. The cold winds are fading away from the warm spring. I know, feels bad. And with the coming new season, we hope our heirs are doing their best as always. With the balance adjustments, we plan to implement changes to 9 heroes. These changes are scheduled to take effect following the 4.14 update, so 13 days from today. So 2 weeks till this comes out. So this will be the week that the 4 5-star tickets go out to everybody. So prayage that you get one of your favorites. All right, so the balance adjustment targets. With the balance adjustment, certain heroes have been absent in the current meta and will be adjusted. The details of the balance adjustments for the selected heroes and artifacts can be seen below. I'm pretty sure I'm not blind, but I don't see a single artifact in this. Nice copy pasta. All right, so what are the 9 heroes we're going to be covering today? Moonlight, 5-star hero, Silverblade Aramintha. Waifu. We have Moonlight, 5-star, Dark Corvus, Husbando. Covenant, 5-star, Diene. This is a limited unit, which means either one of 2 things. She's getting a rerun, or this is for the triple banner. They do not buff limited units unless they're about to get a rerun. So in this case, it's probably going to be either her banner or the triple banner. Not sure what they're doing here, but that's what that typically means. At least in the cycle of things, is the way this is normally going. We're going to have 5-star Aramintha, 5-star Ludwig, 5-star Destina, 4-star Moonlight Guider Aither, 4-star Covenant Coli, and 4-star Armin. So again, the probability number of turns are based fully on enhanced characters, so everything we will see here is plus 15. Skill cooldowns will not be changed unless stated. The skill descriptions mentioned in the preview may differ from the actual update. They rarely do. Okay, so let's jump into the hero balance adjustment. So the first unit off here is Silverblade Aramintha. Now the way we're going to do this is we're going to go across each skill and read it. And we're going to skip over any awakening skills because we want to go straight to the awakening, so we don't care what it is before, we only care what it is after because it's 3 stars. Why do we care about what it says prior to that 3rd star? Okay, let's be real. It's either 5 stars or bust or 6 stars or bust, depending on where you're playing. So, Flame Fraction. The original skill says attacks an enemy with an explosion of flames with a 75% chance to burn for 1 turn. Now, this is where they're giving this a really big rework, it looks like. So, attacks the enemy. Actually, let me move this here so I'm not looking over quite so far that way on that monitor, which helps my reading. Okay, attacks an enemy with the explosion of flames with a 75% chance to burn for 1 turn. After attacking, when the enemy is burned, activates Flame Release as an extra attack, which this will be a subpart of the skills, like a passive to the skill. Flame Release attacks all enemies with Mystic Fire Energy with a 60% chance to burn for 1 turn before increasing the caster's combat readiness by 25%. So they're doing quite a lot here on top of this first skill. But let's read on further, and then we'll talk about Aramintha in her whole when it's all said and done. All right, so Flame Release, which this is the passive, right? Okay. Activates flame release when the enemy is burned after using flame fraction. Flame release attacks all enemies with... Okay, so they're moving... I see what it is. They're taking the passive and moving it into her first skill. That's what they're doing. Okay, so it's now a subpart of her first skill. They're giving her a whole new passive here. That's why this was confusing. So now her new whole passive is when an ally except for the caster uses an attack that targets all enemies, increases the combat readiness of the caster by 20%. It can only be activated once every 3 turns. So she can get an innate 20 CR boost instantly out of the gate as soon as somebody AoEs. That targets all enemies. Okay, that's going to be a very interesting mechanic. Alright, Meteor Fall Awakened. The original skill was drops a giant meteor to attack all enemies, making them unhealable for 2 turns, stunning them for 1 before a 50% chance to inflict, what in the world is that? Inflict 2 burn effects for 2 turns. The new skill is attacks all enemies with a giant meteor with a 65% chance to inflict 2 burns for 2 turns before stunning for 1. Decrease combat readiness of the enemy with the highest combat readiness of 30%. Alright, so let's read her subtext of whatever they're wanting to say here. So Silverblade Aramintha was designed to contain the enemy by taking advantage of burn and stun effects. However, the hero was not able to show their performance without flame release being used. The effects of flame release will be shifted to flame friction, and new passive skill, Flame of Savara, will be added. With the introduction of Flame of Savara, we expect Silverblade Aramintha to develop or to deliver follow-up attacks after an ally attacks the target with all targets all enemies. Meteor Fall will no longer make enemies unable to be healed, but will have a higher chance to burn the enemies and decrease combat readiness of the enemy with the highest combat readiness. With these adjustments, we expect Silverblade Aramintha to have more strategic value in battles among heroes. Okay, so overall, taking it sterile out on its own, this is actually a pretty interesting, probably a good change for Silverblade. But what's concerning is what's below. And we'll get to that in a little bit, which I'll try to sum up when we get to that. But overall, I think this is actually pretty cool. A couple things that you'll have to watch out for is, again, cleansers will absolutely ruin this unit. High ER absolutely will ruin this unit, but I'm curious to see how this will play out. Good news is she's going to be getting a rerun later on in the next couple months with all these reruns. So for those of you who do not have her, you'll have a chance to pick her up and pity her. But there are many amazing heroes about to be rerun over the next 3 months. Basically till July 21st, you've got a whole handful of amazing MLs, and will she justify being pulled out of those? Who knows? Okay. Next up is Dark Corvus. Dark Corvus, so again, we're reading everything off the same way, doesn't matter the unit. So, in this case, this is his S1. So, his original was Shield Bash with the before skill. It was attacks with a shield, absorbs the damage as health. With a 75% chance to provoke for 1 turn, damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's max health. Okay. Then now the new skill is this. So, it's the same as before. So, it has attacks with a shield with a 75% chance to provoke for 1 turn. But now, it is going to be recovers the caster's health and recovers the caster's health. Damage dealt and amount recovered is now increased proportional to the caster's max health. So for those of you guys that have gone out and built absolutely massively thick Dark Corvuses, we're talking lower defense, stupidly high HP. That's what this skill is for. Let's be real. All right. So Devil's Descent, all we care about is the Awakening. So his original one was attacks with a lethal hit, recovering health proportional to the damage dealt, and damage dealt is only affected by the caster's health, does not trigger a critical hit. Battle begins with a full skill cooldown count, meaning this skill cannot be used and has to be worked back around to be able to use it. So now, The new awakening attacks with a lethal hit, absorbs some of the damage as health. When the enemy is defeated, inflicts extinction. When the enemy is defeated, inflicts extinction. Inflicts extinction. Damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's max health and penetrates the target's defense. This attack cannot trigger a critical hit, begins the battle with a full skill cooldown. Soul burn, increased damage dealt. Remember what I told you guys about, be careful what you ask for? This was one of those cases. While I am all for this, you've now got the literal best Guild War unit ever made. Kill the damage dealer, then kill the Soul Weaver, then kill the tank. You're welcome. You just won Guild Wars. Alright, so let's read what they have to say. The hero Dark Corvus bears enemy attacks and inflicts lethal damage on the enemies every time Devil's Descent becomes available. However, the amount of health absorbed as damage from Shield Bash is not high enough to keep the hero up when taking enemy attacks. Also, enemies reviving heroes always amounts to pressure on the team. After these adjustments, Shield Bash will recover more health proportional to the hero's max health, and the hero will be able to keep the dead enemies out of the battlefield by inflicting extinction with Devil's Descent. Additionally, Devil's Descent will deal more damage both with and without consuming soul burn, allowing players to easily take out enemies with high health. Be careful what you asked for. I saw a lot of people ask for this. This was not the direction. This was actually, I kid you not, this was a possibility I legit thought for him. But then I was like, nah, that's too OP. Inflicts extinction on a unit that has 30,000 HP. Good luck killing that. Crow, Ruel, and Dark Corvus is a very hard team to kill. And then you really want to get trolly? Doris, Ruel, and Dark Corvus. You will never kill this unit ever again. Enjoy what you asked for. I'm clearly happy for this. I want this unit for Guild War. All right, moving on. All right, so again, as I stated above, I will note this here. Because Diene is noted in the buff patch, limited RGBs in general, limited units, when they, oops, I forgot to turn that off. I always meant to do that, but Kamashir, thank you for, or Kajam Shear, thank you for following, thank you for joining our quest, welcome to the stream. I normally don't do that, but yes, we'll go ahead and give you the shout out because the notification was on. All right, so again, with Diene, in this case, she is getting a rerun. They will never buff limited RGBs and not rerun them within the cycle of the balance patch. So we have two possibilities here, maybe even three. Before the balance patch, I highly doubt. Before the balance patch or before the Awakening update drops, let's put it in there. Will they run her as a potential? Maybe. On the triple banner is what they're setting this up for, is most likely because that is set to run here on the Awaken update. And then after the triple banner is also likely. I don't think it is, but that's why in this case, when we need to talk about limited RGBs, this is something to know. They will never get buffed and not be rerun. All right, so Diene. Diene's original skill was before. This is a non-awakening skill. So with Blessing of the Goddess, covers all allies with a barrier for 2 turns before dispelling 1 buff. Barrier strength increases proportional to the target's max health. Her new skill is with Blessing of the Goddess, dispels 2 debuffs from all allies And grants a barrier for 2 turns. Barrier strength increased proportional to the target's max health. Okay, so they're just doing a slight change, making her, it looks like, a little more viable. Honestly, when we had talked about this, and something I had theory crafted was, you had to be very, very careful here, because Diene is very close to being very overpowered because of how her kit works and what she offers. So I call this a step in the right direction. This isn't too overpowered. It's not a full dispel, or full cleanse, I should say, is probably the proper word here, which is good. Because honestly, you could stack this pretty quickly to becoming really OP. So in this case, 2 debuffs, good. We'll grant this. This is basically Doris at this point, in that aspect. So then they say, Diene's abilities to increase attack and critical hit resistance for allies for 3 turns make her a great team hero. This Soul Weaver is capable of boosting the team's offensive and defensive capabilities, absolutely, but she is not so effective when it comes to cleansing debuffs, absolutely. With these adjustments, Blessing of the Goddess will be able to dispel 2 debuffs before granting barrier to all allies. This change, so it's before, which is good. These changes will ensure the hero dispels more debuffs, providing better protection. Yes. So this was probably the best case scenario for her. There are definitely ways you could have made this... there's ways you could have made this more broken. But this is definitely, I'd say, great. This is a good change. For those of you who don't have Diene, this is definitely still a unit you want to pick up when she comes out. She still hasn't actually been rerun yet, and I've been playing for 400, and I think, what is it, 3 days today is what's on stream? So 400 days, and Diene was just, so it's been, yeah, literally just a little over a year since she was rerun, because I started on the triple banner when she was out. All right, next up, Fire Aramintha. So again, we're going to skip over the non-awakened skills, so don't be like, why didn't I read that? We're only reading the awakened skills. All right, so her original skill was attacks the enemy with an explosion of flames with a 50% chance to burn for 2 turns. And then it would decrease cooldown of Fire Pillar by 1 turn, ignores effect resistance. So they're getting rid of this, and they're now putting this in. Attacks the enemy with an explosion of flames with a 50% chance to burn for 2 turns. At the end of the turn, she will now detonate the burn effects inflicted on the target. Okay. Hi, Carrot. Hi, Flan. All right. Skill enhancements. So they're now changing the skill enhancements from 15 from 5 chance to 10 chance. Wait, that's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Hold on. Skill enhancement, +1, 10 damage. +2, 5 effect. +3, 10. +4, 15. It's the same thing. What I'm honestly confused as why they're showing this as a change. Is this a typo? I don't know. I don't know why this is here. But I guess it looks like it's saying the same thing. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Catalyst before. Attacks all enemies with a catalytic explosion, making them unhealable for 2 turns before increasing attack of all allies for 2 turns. Attacks all enemies with now her new skill is attacks all enemies with a catalytic explosion, dispelling 2 buffs and making them unhealable for 2 turns before increasing attack of all allies for 2 turns. For each unhealable inflicted, increases combat readiness of the caster by 25%. And now they're increasing the cooldown of this from 3 turns to 4 turns. So this is after it's been Mola. So this is a 4-turn cooldown with Molas. All right, next up is her Fire Pillar. Attacks all enemies with a massive Fire Pillar with a 100% chance to burn for 2 turns with a 50% chance to stun for 1 turn before increasing the caster's combat readiness by 50%. Her new skill is this. Attacks all enemies with a massive Fire Pillar with a 100% chance to inflict 2 burns for 2 turns with a 50% chance to stun for 1 turn. Grants a barrier to the caster for 2 turns. Barrier strength increases proportional to the caster's attack. Okay, so they're really giving her significant more power to land debuffs. Let's read what they have to say, and then I'm going to talk about this, because this is where I was saying we kind of have an issue. The adjustments will make Aramintha able to inflict burn effects more often and even detonate them on enemies. Fire Pillar will now provide better offensive and defensive abilities to inflict by inflicting 2 burn effects, granting a barrier to the caster for 2 turns. Plus, the current combat readiness increase effect will be shifted to the skill. The catalyst will be, hold on, my brain's shutting down here. The effect will be shifted to the skill, Catalyst. And this will help the player take advantage of both attack and combat readiness increase. The Catalyst will have a 1 turn longer skill cooldown, but dispels buffs before all. So that's why they're increasing the skill. Makes sense. Enabling itself to make the enemy unhealable with additional effects, increasing the caster's combat readiness. Increase the combat readiness based on the number of unhealable inflicted. For Ignite, ignoring effect resistance and decreasing cooldown a Fire Pillar by 1 turn will be replaced with the detonating burn effects on the target at the end of the turn. With these adjustments, we expect Aramintha to have an enhanced overall performance and survivability. Okay, so here's the issue. I directly warned about this in another video. You don't and shouldn't get both, because by buffing either one of these, indirectly buffed the other unit. This was the case that when I saw the results, I said, it doesn't matter which one it is. Buff one first. You've now created the issue. This is near a worst case scenario. And I mean legit worst case scenario. She didn't get the strip because she'd been OP if she got the strip with what she's able to do. They've now given her the strip. You already have units out there who can roll back immunity. So anything else, it's gone. There is no such thing as immunity after this. You pair her. Now, obviously, you can see this coming with a mile away. As soon as they drop one or the other, you can expect both to be there. The issue is, I'm expecting some pretty nasty results out of both of these. Will people end up pairing these together? We'll see. But for the overall aspect, these two together is what you didn't want to happen. I personally think this was the biggest mistake of this, is both buffs great. Take them literally out separately. Fire is great on her own. I think this is a great buff. Silverblade on her own is a great buff. Again, on her own, and it definitely is an improvement. Together, this was not supposed to happen. You've now created the exact issue slated to come on. I'm not even gonna tip you guys off, but there are some pretty nasty combinations you guys can come up with here that you may never be able to take a turn again. All right, so moving on. Now let's jump into Ludwig. This was definitely one of those units that a lot of people have been saying for a very long time is absolute garbage and needs to be buffed. So this is one of those well-known ones. Finally, he's getting some love. So let's see what they're doing for him. Alrighty, so his Call of the Moon is Awaken skill. Alright, so Moonlight Blow. Before, it was originally, he attacks with light with a 50% chance to stun for 1 turn before granting the caster invincibility for 1 turn. Now, his new skill is, after attacks with light, decreasing buff durations by 1 turn. Okay, so let's just pause right here for just a second, YouTube. I'm thinking, I have a question for you guys. There's a set. I can't quite think of the name of it. It rhymes with, community. It's immunity. Yeah, immunity. And if I remember correctly, on this set, it grants turn 1 immunity as a buff. And here is now yet another unit within 3 months who now rolls this duration back by 1 turn. Another unit does it within 3 months. You still want to call this thing good? Okay. All right, moving on. Before a 100% chance to stun for 1 turn. So now he can roll durations back, stun you, and go invincible. Noted. After the attack, when the target is stunned, increases combat readiness of the caster by 50%. So 50% if he lands the stun. Oh wait, read the next line. Soul burn, 20 souls, ignores effect resistance. These soul burns are nasty. Thankfully, it's a 20 soul burn and not a 10 soul burn, because there's a unit out there that has a 10 soul burn of this that is nasty. 10 souls for that? Yeah, okay. 20? Okay. Much more balanced. But in this case, it's going to allow him to be able to use that trick, but it will cost 20 souls. All right, so let's look at his Awaken skill. His original Awaken skill read, attacks all enemies with Nocturne Magic, penetrating defense by 20%. When the caster is invincible, penetrates the defense by an additional 30%. When a critical hit will grant the caster a barrier for 2 turns with the strength increasing proportional to the caster's attack. And this is where originally his soul burn was. Now, his new Call of the Full Moon skill will read this. Attacks all enemies with Nocturne Magic. When the enemy is defeated, extends the caster's buff duration by 1. When it will now penetrate the target's defense by 30%. When the caster is invincible, it will penetrate the target's defense by an additional 30%. So I'm reading this correctly, that is 60% pen and defense. And now it's just increased damage dealt. Or damage dealt is now increased. So let's read over this, and then we're going to talk about Ludwig a little bit. Ludwig's core skill, Call of the Full Moon, will have increased damage and penetration values to allow the hero to take advantage of invincibility granted by Moonlight Blow. Call of the Full Moon will extend buff durations by 1 turn when defeating an enemy instead of granting a barrier. When meeting a critical hit condition, which is going to be always, because nobody builds units unless they're 100% crit for PvP, let's be real. In addition, Moonlight Blow will now decrease enemies' buff durations by 1 turn, stun them with a 100% chance, and even increase combat readiness of the caster when the enemy is stunned after the attack. Call of the Full Moon will now have increased damage values, and its soul burn will be moved to the Moonlight Blow with a new effect that ignores effect resistance. Now, they are also changing his exclusive equipment, which is fine for option 1 because it now makes sense for what they're doing. His exclusive equipment will now be changed. Instead of increasing the effect by 50% when using Moonlight Blow, damage dealt will now be increased by 10% when using Moonlight Blow. So they're just making sure they update it to make it relevant. As there will be a change to his exclusive equipment, players will be able to change the option for his exclusive equipment for 2 weeks after the adjustment has been made. So if you already have Ludwig built for whatever reason and you've pulled his exclusive equipment, you'll be able to change the option over. So that's going to be good for you guys who already have it. The exclusive equipment adjustment that had the adjustment to their options was obtained prior to the adjustment are eligible to be changed. Obviously, when players change these options, the other effects of the exclusive equipment will remain unchanged, and the options cannot be reversed. So basically, they're allowing you to switch it, but you cannot change the percentage of whatever it is. Okay, so here is my 2 issues with what they're doing, and this is just a sad precedent that is going on further the more this game's being developed, which is also something that is not being stopped because they aren't addressing their issues in balancing actual units, is they're creating more issues. 1, every unit is starting to get this stupid decreased buff duration. Like I said, this is just another unit within 3 months. Technically 4, if you really want to get down to it. because we're just now in April, and this isn't an April Fool's joke. I'm sorry, this is April 1st, but it's not an April Fool's joke. Decreases buff durations by 1 turn. We've got to stop giving these units this specific tech. Not only did we just give Aramintha Dispel, we're giving him a Dispel. You're just basically making it to where it's rock, paper, scissors of who goes before where, and you got to time where your units are at. So you either make them go first, so that they either use the skill or whatnot, or you need to be able to take care of the unit before they use the skill. This is kind of annoying. This I can see being a bit annoying. Is this going to make him great? With High Young existing, I don't think so. But this is definitely going to be seen. But as long as High Young exists, no grass unit is safe. You are no longer safe. As for this, I'm also getting wary of everything penetrating defense. Everything's starting to penetrate defense. You're lowering the value of defense. You're making defense becoming a more less worth stat. Because now the more you add to pen defense, this is going to be an issue. Because this is going to keep building and building and building to where eventually we're not going to have a defense stat. Or I've got ideas, which I'm going to talk about eventually in another video. But overall, again, taking the sterile out of the equation, is this good for Ludwig? Yes. Are there units out there that hard counter him already? Yeah. But hey, it's a step in the right direction for Ludwig. All right, next up is Destina. So let's see here. This is her S1. Yes, Key of Oath. Yes. Okay, so Destina is now. So she's getting a full. Holy crap, that's a full rework. All right. So, Key of Oath before. Attacks the enemy with a staff and heals the ally with the lowest health. Healing increased proportional to the target's max health. I can see where this is going. The new skill is attacks the enemy with a staff and heals the ally with the lowest health. Healing increased proportional to the caster's max health. Okay, yeah. This is better because when you're healing low HP units, they're not going to get healed as much. By healing off something that has a bigger HP pool, which is typically Destina, this is definitely something to consider. So good stuff here. Next up is Regen. Blesses an ally, recovering their health and increases their combat readiness by 50%. Healing increased proportional to the caster's max health. Okay, so this looks like a nerf buff at the same time. Blesses an ally, dispelling dispelling 2 debuffs and recovering health before increasing combat readiness by 30%. Healing increased proportional to the increased proportional to the caster's max health. Cool. They're lowering the healing ability because they're now giving her a dispel. Well, a cleanse, really. And the skill cooldown is being lowered from 3 to 2. And it'll now acquire 1 soul. So we're being able to cycle this faster. So, okay, I can get it. We're getting it through a little bit more often, which is why we're decreasing the healing. But honestly, again, she's a grass soul weaver, so we have to think about our options here. All right, I'll give this one. This is actually pretty good. All right, so let's go to her Awakened skill. Destina's Grace, which is her S3. Grants all allies the blessing of Spirit Lord, dispelling all debuffs before recovering health. When an ally is debuffed, their combat readiness will also be increased by 15% per debuff. The effect can only be applied up to 4 times. The amount recovered increased proportional to the caster's max health. All right. So her new skill is grants all allies the blessing of a Spirit Lord, reviving all dead allies by 20% health. Hi, Maid Chloe. Hi, Maid Chloe's here as a RGB. We now have a second reviver of Destina Ruel. Okay. Okay, hold on. For allies that are not dead, as you can see, I am not dead. Dispels all debuffs. Okay. Recovering health. Amount recovered increased proportional to the caster's max health. At the start of the first battle, grants Spirit's Blessing to the caster for 2 turns. Spirit Blessing increases effect resist by 60, holy crap, percent. Spirit's Blessing cannot be dispelled. And healing is decreased. Okay. So she's not quite... Okay, so this is a cool thing, but it's dangerous too because 20% HP is not a lot of health left, so you gotta know where to pop this. Alright, let's see what they have to say about Destina, and then I'm about to theory craft the crap out of this. Alright, Destina is an excellent Soul Weaver that dispels debuffs from allies and recovers their health. However, these abilities have been poorly used due to their long cooldowns and limited efficiency. Agreed. The cooldown of regen will decrease by 1 turn. The effect dispelling debuffs will be added. Hooray. As cooldown is adjusted to 2 turns, increased combat readiness and the increased combat readiness and amount recovered. Soul gain slightly decreased, obviously. However, using exclusive equipment option 3 will make up for this. Enabling the player to increase combat readiness by 50% with a short cooldown. Destina's Grace will have the current effect of increasing combat readiness based on the number of debuffs replaced with an effect to revive all dead allies. In addition, the skill will grant a unique buff, increased effect resistance of the caster of the start of the battle, which helps the caster to be more controlling on PvP battlefield. However, as it will have a reviving effect, the amount of health recovered will be slightly reduced. On the other hand, Key to an Oath will recover health more steadily, as it's now based on the caster's max health instead of the target's max health. With these adjustments, we expect Destina to have an improved abilities to respond to debuff attacks, protect allies, and be used more often in various situations. In addition, they are changing Destina's exclusive equipment option 3 will be adjusted as follows. It's no longer going to have a decreased skill cooldown, but it'll increase the combat readiness of the target by an additional 20% when using regen. And again, they're saying, as there will be changes to his, her exclusive equipment, copy pasta, players will be able to change the option for this equipment for 2 weeks after the adjustment. Adjustments have been applied. The exclusive equipment had adjustments to their options and was obtained prior to the adjustment are eligible for the change. Yes, we get it. Okay, so here is the thing. This is quite a substantial change to Destina. Destina was definitely a terror for a while, but the big glaring issue I see here, and this is just me, we're getting into this territory. We're now getting more unstrippable buffs. Because we're now giving more units strips, we're making more unstrippable buffs. So eventually this game is just going to be unstrippable buffs. And yeah, that's the only way we're going to be able to combat this crazy crap fest you've created of strippers. Buffs and strippers, buffs and strippers. Everything's going to have it. Everything's now going to buff and everything's now going to strip. And eventually everything's going to be, you're going to play the game around unstrippable buffs is what this is going to eventually be. And then you're going to have to eventually make an ML5 who can strip the unstrippable buff. That's literally the next thing you're going to do. It's going to happen. Overall, the Dispel is great. That's definitely huge for her because basically it's either you would run the S1 EE so that and you'd put her on counter so she could dispel buffs off of her every time she would counter. This is going to help out with that. I still say that's going to be the tech. This is basically going to be a tanky Soul Weaver. All right, moving on. Guider Aither. Okay, here we go. So, Guider Aither is now getting a change. Attacks with spirit power and grants the caster a barrier for 2 turns. Barrier strength is proportional to the caster's attack. Now his new skill is going to be Spirit's Protection. Attacks with Spirit's power before recovering health of all allies, granting barrier for 2 turns. The amount recovered and barrier strength increase proportional to the caster's max health. So they're nerfing Guider Aither. Barrier strength is now increased. Yeah, they're nerfing Aither. So this is what you get when you ask for something. Sometimes it doesn't always play out. So yeah, Aither's still just as trash as he was before. And I'll explain why in a minute. Wave of Force. Attacks with spirit power and heals all allies. Amount recovered increased proportional to the damage dealt. They're changing that to now delivers a blow to the enemy with spirit power and dispels all buffs. Before increasing attack of the ally with the highest attack for 2 turns. Absolutely useless. But other than the full dispel, that's kind of annoying. Oh wait, hold on. It's an awakened skill, so let's read the other one. Which now is dispels all buffs before increasing attack of the ally with the highest attack for 2 turns and increasing combat readiness by 50%. So that's the nice part about it. This is kind of cool. This is technically the actual buff of it. The upper part is a nerf. And then they're changing the soul burn here to skill cooldown is now decreased by 2 turns to use this. Guider Aither is a unique mage capable of recovering and protecting allies, but overall it was not enough for the hero to contribute to the team fight. With these adjustments, Wave of Force will have the effects of dispelling enemy buffs, increasing attack of all allies, so that the skill will be readily boosts allies' attack. In addition, Spirit's Protection will be adjusted to cover allies' health, granting a barrier at the same time for better team protection. The barrier strength will be slightly weaker, but will be granted to all allies, and then his exclusive equipment is being adjusted, which is being changed from grants a barrier to all allies when using Spirit's Protection. Barrier strength increased proportional to the caster's attack, and then increases amount recovered by 20% when using Spirit's Protection. And again, it's the same spiel about what they're doing here to this. Okay, so here's the thing. This is a nerf because of one basic thing that you guys probably need to realize. Guider Aither is a light cancer mage. Light cancer mage. Okay? Let's come down here and talk about this. His awakening is attack percent, health, attack percent. But wait, there's more. His imprint is attack percent. What are you doing? What are you doing? You literally just made him worse because his health is abysmal. Literally, he's one of the lowest HP mages. One of them. And you're now taking the one thing he had going for him, which was his attack stat. You've now neutered the unit. You just showed you don't know how to buff units, or else you wouldn't have done this. Like, really? You guys are supposedly claiming to be this competent about your buffing and balancing, and you're trying to show good faith, and then you try to throw this in because everybody's asking for Guider Aither because he's trash, and then you end up just nuking the unit to begin with. Whoever said that this was a good idea, they need to be fired. I'm sorry, I'm calling for somebody to lose their job, or at least just move them to another department. For crying out loud, put them on janitorial duty or something and give them a pay raise. Slightly from being a janitor to being dunce of the studio. This is... Why did you do this? Like, this doesn't make sense when his whole kit was literally designed around his attack, is now based off of his HP. You've now neutered the one thing he had going for him to make him dispel buffs and increase the ally and give him a CR push. You've basically changed what people actually used him for to now being useless ish. Still use him as your 70 silver transmit stones because it's one of the only, as of right now, it's the only 4-star that transmits as a 3-star, or will transmit as a 4-star with 3 stars. Trash him. Still an absolutely useless unit. Okay, next up, we're jumping into the Covenant 4-stars. So Coli, I'm gonna call her Coli. You can flame me later, I don't care. All right, so her ambush, which is her S1, is what I'm assuming this is. Ambush is the enemy. Activating ambush activating ambush again when stealth. Oh, so she'll activate it when stealth. Damage dealt increase proportional to the caster's speed. Now they're changing it to ambushes the enemy with a 75% chance to steal 1 buff. Okay. Increase effect chance to 100% and steals 2 buffs. So, hi, Ren. Okay, cool. This will be interesting. Don't think that sounds good, but all right, let's go. Accurate strike. It used to be attacks the enemy with an unseen blade, decreasing combat readiness by 30% before granting stealth and a barrier to the caster for 1 turn. Barrier strength increased proportional to the caster's attack, and damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's speed. They're now changing it to attacks the enemy with unseen blade and grant stealth to the caster for 2 turns. At the end of the turn, detonates any bleed and bomb effects on the target. So once again, they're trying to make something good, and they're really trying to get these bleeds and burning and these bomb effect tech actually out. So they're forcing this through. All right, I'm okay-ish with this. All right, so now they're changing Baptism of Fire Awakened. So attacks the enemy with a dagger and a bomb, decreasing combat readiness by 25 3 times. Wait. Decreasing combat readiness by 25 3 times before stunning the target for 1 turn and granting the caster stealth for 1 turn. Damage will increase proportional to this caster. And then ignore effect resist. Okay, so now the new one is attacks the enemy with a dagger and a bomb, decreasing buff durations by 1 turn. Here we go again. Inflicting bleeding and planting a bomb before increasing combat readiness of the caster by 50%. When the target is a fire elemental hero, ignores effect resistance and increases combat readiness of the caster by an additional 50%. Damage dealt increased. They also removed her soul burn, and look at this. This right here just shows how incompetent they really are. They're changing her imprint concentration from dual attack chance to attack percent. Who did we just talk about that could actually use an imprint concentration flip? Guide or Aither. They'll do it for Coli, but they won't do it for Aither. Again, just shows you how incompetent the team was that put this crap together. Absolutely. Holy crap. All right, moving on. Coli was designed to be a thief who attacks the enemies with stealth. However, they required a high level of equipment to set up the hero effective in battle. With these adjustments, while keeping the stealth ability, this hero will be able to inflict bleeding and plant bombs, detonating those effects on enemies, dealing a good amount of damage. In particular, when the target is a fire element hero, the player can inflict bleeding and bombs on the enemies, ignoring their effect resistance. This is a dangerous path to take, and take the next turn early. Plus, imprint concentration will now increase attack instead of dual attack chance, and the soul burn effect transferred to ambush, increasing the effect chance to 100% of stealing 2 buffs and from the target. So we're going down a extremely dangerous road. This is a 4-star hero that is relatively easy to get and relatively easy to imprint, and you're making that a thing now. So this is their answer to Ha Young. But again, this is basically just landy food, so with one comes the other. All right, moving on. Hi, Crimson Armin, weren't you just buffed, or Armin, weren't you just buffed recently? Okay, whatever. Let's see what they have to say about Armin. So, takedown. Attacks the enemy with a large shield with a 35% chance of stunning for 1 turn. When the enemy is debuffed, enhance. The chance will increase damage dealt, increase proportional to the caster's defense. Okay? Now, takedown. Attacks with a shield with a 35% chance to stun for 1 turn. Damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's defense. When it is not the caster's turn, this attack changes into an attack that targets all enemies. So when she counters, she's now attacking AoE or on a dual attack. All right, let's move on. Flash of light. So it releases a bright light to attack all enemies with a 100% chance to decrease hit chance for 2 turns. They're completely giving this whole skill a brand new thing. When attacked, has a 15% chance to counter attack. When the ally, except for the caster, is attacked by a single attack, it decreases damage suffered by 20%. When 1 or more damage reduction effect is granted, only the strongest is applied. And then they're changing the counter attack. Okay, so they're giving Armin a pretty significant jolt here. Alright, so her awakened, flash of light. Which needs to be, we should have read this. Alright, so it's 100% chance. So now it's when attacked, has a 100%, or has a 25% chance to counterattack with the ally except for a single target attack. No, that is it. I did read that. Jeez. That's actually kind of crazy what they're doing there. Alright, shield wall. Covers all allies with a shield of light, granting a barrier for 3 turns, recovering health before recovering health. Barrier strength increased proportional to the caster's defense, and the amount recovered increased proportional to the target's max health. Decreases damage suffered by allies by 10% when the skill is unavailable on cooldown count when 1 or more damage reduction effects. Okay, yeah. So what they're doing now is she will uses the shield of light to dispel 1 debuff from all allies and grants increased defense to the caster for 2 turns and a barrier to all allies for 2 turns. Barrier strength increased proportional to the caster's defense. They're now increasing the barrier strength, cooldown, and the soul burn. So they're giving basically the actual Carbon soul burn here. Extends durations of buffs by 1 turn. Okay. So this will be interesting to see this work. I still think Ha Young is going to one-shot this thing, but that's assuming Ha Young is still in the fight. All right. Armin was supposed to be a knight who excels at protecting allies, but she had issues with some skills being ineffective. Takedown will now change into an attack that targets all enemies when used as part of a dual attack or a counter attack. Okay, good. So basically, if you put her on counter and her passive, you'll be getting this off more often. The skill Flash of Light will be replaced with a passive skill, Protect. So they're getting rid of a skill and making it a passive. Protect will decrease damage suffered when an ally is attacked by a single attack and have the chance to counterattack with a chance when the chance when the caster is attacked. An effect to dispel debuffs from allies will be added to shield wall. The skill cooldown will decrease by 1 turn. Barrier duration strength decrease as well. The soul burn that decreases skill cooldown will be changed to buff duration. Armin's exclusive equipment option 1 will be changed as well. Takedown chance stunning 25%, and now will increase protects counterattack chance by 5. So that's obviously the exclusive equipment to go. And then they are also changing the option 3 to dispels 1 buff when using shield wall. It will dispel an additional buff to all eyes when using shield wall. And there are no artifacts here to be changed. They felt it not necessary whatsoever to balance out any artifacts, that there is not a single artifact in this game that needs to be balanced because of the balance survey. They took our opinions and said, we voted that none of the artifacts needed to be changed. So they said, absolutely, they are completely fine. This is fine. Not a single one needs to be buffed or changed. Honestly, though, with the amount of units here, we could have gotten into a serious can of worms of that. All right, so what we are going to do is now turn off follower-only mode. You guys are good to go. I've given you kind of my 2 cents along the way, so now what we're going to do is, because this is long, I'm going to give you guys this. This is going to be a long video anyway, But I'm going to give you guys initially 15 minutes with the option of extending this up to 10 extra minutes. So we'll do that in 5 increments. At this point, now in chat, you guys, at Nightingale1176 in chat, ask your questions. Timer starts now. 15 minutes of Q&A begins here. So, this is something. That's for sure. This is definitely something. Which EE for Destina? As far as Destina goes, I am still a huge fan of the number 1 EE, which dispels an extra buff. But I can also see the justification for the combat readiness push. But it will determine on how you want to play her, will determine on which one. I still think the counter Destina with Celestine and that Dispel is absolutely toxic. So, I definitely think number 1 is probably the best. But if you're going to be using her as a CR pusher, then you're going to probably need the third. Or whatever the option was that's going to change it now with the combat readiness push. Nightingale. So, Han, Guy, Dilibet are basically must build now for sure with the Aramintha buffs. Not necessarily that they are must build. You guys need to start learning about ER. You know, give up your immunity sets. Start farming Banshee. Start farming ER builds. Give up the idea of dispelling because they are going to be targeted and heavily, heavily, heavily targeted. Do not think about dispelling all the time. You need to start thinking about resisting more debuffs. But yes, definitely they are becoming more viable, but there are also other units out there that do literally the same job. All right. If this is correct, do you reckon this is a buff? I can't see what it is. So you'll need to please copy and paste it and at me one more time and with whatever they're saying, because I can't actually read it. Why keep releasing units which rely on defense like Lionheart, Sirmia, Arya, and make defense less and less relevant? It's exactly one of my major concerns with this game right now of what they're doing is you have Ha Yang, which is 100% def pen. You've got Crow, which is 100% def pen. You have Watcher Shuri, which is 100% def pen. And then you're adding units in there that are def related, and you're not going to fix the issue. That's a big thing for me. All right. Only the English version says Aither got changed to health. The other languages, none of the other, note that isn't part green. Okay, so you're saying that it's a typo and that the other languages are saying attack percent? Okay, we'll wait till the balance notes, actually here, let me go ahead and refresh the page in case they've updated this. Let's do this real quick. It doesn't show a update. Guider Aither. As of right now, as of this video, it's 8:31 a.m. on the 1st of April. This is still saying caster's max health. We'll wait till the balance notes drop or they update it. Honestly, just check back here, guys, on the, what is it, the 14th balance patch, and I will address this again if they did or did not actually change this. So that Wednesday's video will be a watch if you guys are concerned about Aither. Alrighty. In your opinion, what artifacts need to be buffed the most? There's a lot, but let's just put it this way. Samsara Prayer Beads is probably notably the most and worst artifact since release of the game and has not really been buffed, and it is due for an Alexa's Basket rework. Not that I think that out of all of them that is the most one, but that is the community's general thought needs to be buffed. I don't know why they don't want to work on this artifact. It is trash. Everybody thinks it's trash. Everybody voted it was trash, minus the absolutely dumb people who voted that not a single artifact needed a change. Not a single 5-star artifact needs a buff, yet that one below is the community's general thought of absolute worst one. Let's just go ahead and say that. Other languages say the attack. Okay, Ludwig with the Etika Scepter, Time Matter, will basically give him 100% uptime on his invincibility. Do you think this will benefit him as a DPS in RTA, or is this an issue due to units like Rimuru being able to turn his invincibility against him and just yoinking it to the enemy team, TLDR? Do you think he will be relevant in RTA now? I think people will try to use him, but then they're going to immediately just get clapped by other grass or fire units. I think his kit's cool. Again, on his own, I think Ludwig stands out as this was definitely a good change for him, but when you have being able to steal buffs and all that stuff and put it against him, no, I don't think people are going to end up drafting it, because it's kind of like, let's put it like this. Why do you want to draft Senya and Arya into Rimuru? Do you really want to give Rimuru and the entire team a counter buff? No. You're not that dumb. Now, maybe you're thinking you're going to ban Rimuru. Okay. Well, you try to put it on your defense or whatever. All it's going to take is him to swing around, and anybody who can now steal 2 buffs, this is going to be an absolute, like, no. This is not going to make him more relevant. You might see some people use him and get it off and look really cool, but this is not going to change the game, I think, overall, because of them not wanting that stolen. With all these buffs, what do you think... with all these buffs, what do you think are most negatively affecting in the meta right now? As of right now, I think the big concern needs to be, the big red flag is the Aramintha and Silverblade Aramintha combo. I think these two are probably the most unthought about combo when balancing. This literally looks like they took them sterile out and didn't think about them together. Because totally the option together with other units, this is not a healthy thing for the game. And you're almost back to the Sage Ball Aramintha stage, which people are then going to complain about, asking them to be nerfed, but now they have the no nerf policy, so you're going to have to sleep in the bed you made. ER units are about to become a big thing, and I think that will, be a shift towards the new meta, or there's going to be something coming along the way that is going to change things like this. Or there's going to be another Soul Weaver get a buff in 8 weeks that you'll need to tune into to see next time. But yes, I definitely think with Time Matter and Etika Scepter, as far as what you're saying, Mystilic, the last thing I just realized there is those are definitely some dangerous things. Ludwig is a mage, which does reduce the cooldown. There's a lot of issues going on there. All right, next question is, do you think that it might be a slippery slope of what they did with Coli, especially... wanted to nerf Ha Young without nerfing Ha Young directly. Yes, the ignore F-res, but also at the same time, there are ways to counter Coli. And to be fair, you in RTA, if you're looking at it that way, you just ban Coli, or you deal with Coli in another aspect. There are ways to stop her from doing everything, because it's not like she's granted extra turns. You've just got to be able to stop her some way beforehand. As far as directly to counter Ha Young, in like defenses, it's your fault if you get Coli'd. Like, if you've got Ha Young on a defense and somebody Coli's you, it's literally like you had all buffs and all grass and water units, and you brought buffs and somebody brought Landy. It's not your fault. It's something you're gonna deal with. Can Destina become relevant in RTA with such low base speed? Yes, and she was RTA relevant. It's just people didn't want to draft her, not because of the speed. You guys that think about speed are sadly mistaken on your mentality. You don't need to focus consistently and always on speed, because yes, her kit then was not as good for what it is, but now with the Soul Weaver increase plus this, she's definitely gaining some value, especially if they're going into RGB and things like that aren't, basically you take her into anything that doesn't have fire, and she's going to be pretty darn strong against that. The ER is great, and you may even play sacrificial, you may end up playing Sacrificial Destina to know that she's only going to live 2 turns to be able to cleanse your enemies and go from there. There are ways to make her faster. It just depends on how you want to end up playing her. Um, how long will it take Smilegate to realize nerfs are necessary for PvP games? When they realize that they need to grow a set of balls and, actually tell the community to, screw off, and we're not going to send out a selector for every unit that we need to nerf. That sometimes change is inevitable, and it needs to happen for the better good of the game, and everybody would actually agree, majority of the time, that nerfs need to happen for the greater health of the game, which is something they need to do. Let's talk about the real spice, DC and RTA now. Honestly, kind of. But units like Ha Young, remember, Zake, we've already shown on stream before that it does not take much to nuke a Dark Corvus with a Ha Young. Especially now that you're going to be building basically little to no HP and little to no defense on him, almost going all HP. You've got this. He's still a Guild War unit. That's what he is. And it's now a terrifyingly good Guild War unit. Because now it's literally, it is now a free win. You can easily keep him alive to kill the most terroristic unit on the team. You can totally keep him alive for that. Now he's going to extinct him. That Soul Weaver will never be able to revive him again. It's done. One defense is now, if you have Dark Corvus, one team is completely dead. Guaranteed. So now you've got to make the other one as absolutely as toxic as possible to maybe get a draw. Because if they have Dark Corvus and Ruel or Destina, any Soul Weavers, basically you take type disadvantage Soul Weavers, or basically type advantage Soul Weavers to whatever is there, or neutral, take Dark Corvus, and it's a free win. So Doris Christie, DC, no, it's not even about, you don't even technically need Christie, you just need another, you either need, because Christie is just for the ER. I don't really think that's necessary. Especially if you've got Doris. I think Crow is still a better option. I still think there are going to be other units along the way that would be much better. Would you say Dark Corvus is the new must pick on the free ML selection? No, he does not. He does not make that. There's still, the buff is good. Do not get me wrong here. Do not get me wrong here. The buff is really good for him. I'm happy that he's getting this. I'm just a little stunned that they gave him probably the best of all the buff options without testing anything else along the way. The extinction is pretty nasty. He's an insanely tanky unit, and you're allowing him to have extinction. Typically, extinction has been on units that are extremely squishy units, and you just gave the first warrior who has absolutely massive HP extinction. This wasn't thought out very well in the long scheme of things. So, as far as must pick, no, it's still RB, Ruel, Spectre Tenebria, but he is definitely one of those units that eventually, when you have some time and you're not, like, going for every new ML5, yes, he's one you eventually want to pick up, especially if you care about your Guild Wars and you really enjoy the Guild War content. He's now going to probably be a must-use unit in one of your two teams every single fight. If you lose Dark Corvus, that is your IQ issue, and just don't take it into LQC teams or High Young teams without knowing what's going to go on. So don't blindly take it into an LQC and then cry when he gets one shot because LQC was built on some absolute godly set. So pretty much, yeah. All right, next up. With the increased number of units of buff decreased by one turn, do you think they will eventually remove the immunity set altogether when they rework sets? Okay. So I will give you guys a sneak peek of an idea that I have had about immunity. Which is going to be in a video I am putting together. I don't know when this will be out, but you guys will get the first sneak peek of a concept I'm thinking of. So when it comes to immunity, immunity is dead as it is now, okay? I think we can all agree this set is absolutely worthless in its value. Now, a concept I've had is this. It's called the 4 set. If you So immunity is currently a 2-set in the game. Now, if you give it a 4-set property, if it is triggered at a 4-set, it turns it into ultimate immunity, which is either actual 1-turn immunity that it cannot be stripped, or another concept is in a 4-set is 3-turn or 3-turn. I will reset this for. I'll go ahead and do 5 minutes here. Because we still got plenty of questions coming in, is turn it into either a 3-turn buff overall, but you got to sacrifice the 4-set to get it. But then also kind of comes into the factor of looking at how to balance out overall things in the game. You're going to have to look at, okay, now we got to talk about speed and this whole 9 can of worms. But right now, in the initial concept is immunity is either going to have to become to a permanent unstrippable at a 4-set, or it's going to have to be 3-turn, which means you will a 3-turn at least, or 2-turn at probably the worst. Somewhere in there, I think there's going to have to be a value of it to where, yes, it's directly nerfing all those units, but I don't see people that are using immunity how they've been using it to give up their speed sets or their other sets to go into the 4-speed set, or the 4 set of immunity. But if there's a unit you absolutely do not want to be debuffed, I could see it being built for them. But that means you have to suffer whatever comes in before that unit can go off because of the speed penalty of this set. So there is something to happen here, but I don't know if it's going to be the... no thoughts really on how this can implement, but I think there is definitely an option here for immunity, but you've got to come up with ways of balancing this out long term. So... immunity definitely needs a rework, and I'm trying to think of ways to suggest. I don't know when this video will go out. Again, this is all going to be speculation and just theory crafting, but I want to give the community an idea of actually how we can improve, because if we can improve sets, we can improve the balance so that they don't have to do some of this dumb crap that they've been doing. So... let's see here. We've got 3 minutes left on this timer. If nobody asks any more questions over the next 3 minutes, we will wrap this very long video up. But it was something we have to cover, and there will be timestamps. There will be timestamps in the video for everything here, which I should have said at the beginning. But hey, you know what? It's fine. Do you think her S3... but still look at me at who you're talking about? Her S3. Who are you? I'm assuming you're talking about Destina? He's talking about Armin? Armin. Alright, do you think her S3 is better or worse? Losing the heal for a cleanse. Here's the thing. I don't have actual numbers on this. I think here's the issue. There are already really good Soul Weavers out there. Do we need a tank really healing? No. What do they need to be doing technically? They need to be taking and, you know, taking along with stuff. It's a 2-turn debuff cleanse. Yes, I see that. But two debuffs, it's a 50-50. It depends on how you want to play with her. I can see DMK Masters all got his panties in a wad about it, but honestly, it just comes down to your philosophy of use on how you play around with things. I don't think the heal, if the heal isn't great on either side, then just bring us. You should have brought a Soul Weaver to begin with. You don't bring a Knight to heal. Yeah, it's a little supportive, but honestly, I think this just needs to be tested out, because I think more people will probably like the 2 debuffs being dispelled, especially with all the crap that's up here, but I don't know if the health recovery, I've never seen it, because I've never seen really Armin out and used. I'm a Carmen user, not an Armin user, as I state every time I basically say her name. I slip and say Carmen, not Armin. But the counter thing's really cool. I actually agree here. That's gonna be really neat. Bring Doris to this or some other Soul Weaver, and you're gonna be good to go. Ara and Armin could be an idea. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys 1 minute, just in case there's somebody typing up a question. I will give you guys one last minute before I wrap this up and send this to the outro. So, last questions, last call. Here you go. If you guys got any other questions, you have 1 minute, and if you come in after the buzzer, I'll answer it off the video. But just because I know some people type slow or typing on their phones, I want to give you guys the last little bit of time to get your thing out, and I will take the time to fully answer the questions if they come in before this goes off. I'm using my minute to find out why 1v1 going down. I'm ready. No, we're not going to do a 1v1. I got so much crap I have to do. We still got so much stuff on here. All right, here we go. I think Guide or Aither description is a typo. Korean post, it says barrier, strength proportional to the attack. There's no red text on the old version. The green one, is there a change? We will have to see. Like I said, for anybody watching the video and is still here, we will check this again on the April 14th patch video, or actually it'll be April 13th patch video. All right, last call. Anything that's been pinged, I will answer. We will check out the patch notes then. When the balanced patch notes are put into the patch notes, we will make sure what Guide or Aither is doing. If it is a typo, great, cool. If not, this is a horrible misguidance by their part. But let's wait till we see the actual update notice or anything like that. But I am not going to make a direct video about Guide or Aither. I just am not going to do it. Not patch related. Do you want me to send Ravi on Discord? Here, because I'm about done. My actual question is, if Aither isn't a typo, what are your thoughts? If it's not a typo, it is absolutely abysmal. It shows their incompetence of balancing the game, especially when they literally do this for Coli. Let's talk about Coli one last time, right here at the bottom. As you can see right here, they are completely and 100% competent of changing the attack imprint and to health imprint. So that right there shows that they are incompetent of their game if they do not do this, and it is not a typo. If it is a typo, great, cool. It's Aither got a buff. If it's not, it's a direct nerf. All right. So, that's going to take care of the insanely long balanced patch notes. Again, for those of you who have watched and want to go back and see what I'm going to be saying, each unit will be timestamped directly inside of the description down below. I want to thank all of you guys who have tuned in throughout the very long balance notes. We will be talking about this more off stream. Again, YouTube. Also, by the way, chat, go ahead and start saying goodbye to YouTube as we wrap up here. We will be continuing talking about this off stream. If you guys would like to come hang out with me live on stream, every time we have one of these types of patches, we will be discussing everything live on YouTube or live here on Twitch, and then you guys will have it. And also feel free to ask me questions if your questions did not get answered or somehow did not get answered along the way. Feel free to hit me up in the comments below and I'll try my best to help you guys out. So that's going to take care of it for today. Again, tune in to the balanced patch notes, or the actual patch on the, I believe it's the 13th or the 14th of April, whichever day is the Wednesday prior to the patch. We will make sure that everything is the same, so we will be going over that. So take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.